So I'd like to officially welcome everyone to our first session for the 2021 Ontario Education Summit that we've put together. We're very happy tonight to have our first guest speaker with us, Mr. Max Audette from Montreal. Just a little bit about our presenter tonight. Max is an active CEBL as well as NBL official. He also works at the Usport and OCR college level in Quebec as well. He sent me quite a vast CV to go through, but I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of it at his request. So I was very lucky to get to attend Max's camp 3 years ago in Montreal and learned a great deal from him as well as a bunch of his staff that were at the camp. So Max's topic tonight that he has chosen to do is the mental state of an official. And so Mr. Audette, before you start, I know, Georgia, you said you wanted to say a few words before we get going, so you may unmute and share if you wish.
Hi, everybody. Max, welcome to Ontario. On behalf of OWABO, we'd like to thank Peel and Table for putting this together. Dan, thank you so much for all your hard work and organization. You have become a secretary of responding to emails on inquiries. So thank you very much. We're looking forward to the numerous sessions that you've organized. It's such a great example to your commitment to education, the harmonization, and the overall love of the game. I know that I posted in the chat room that Canada Basketball is having a Women in Basketball Month. If people are interested, please reach out. But I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you and look forward to amazing presentations. And Max, it's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia. Mr. Audette, the stage is yours, my friend.
The stage is mine. That means I need to share my screen.
You can, absolutely.
All right. Well, first, thanks for having me. Thanks, Stan, again. And I'm just thrilled because when it gets a chance to talk basketball, you get the chance to share your passion. That's my intent tonight. And you're giving me the floor. I'll try to be efficient. I picked that topic tonight because we don't get to actually work the court lately. Unless your name is Matt Callio, and I watched Matt last night. He's doing really well. Kudos to him. I kind of picked a topic where we can actually reflect on things. And my ultimate goal tonight by showing you the PowerPoint is that at some point throughout the PowerPoint, you can see, oh, yeah, I used to think that way. Or, oh, yeah, I used to be me. Oh, that's me. And if that's the case, if I connect to some of your reflection that you might have had or you do have, try to look at the following step in my different stages that I'm describing. Because the idea here is that if you see yourself, then you can prevent doing the same mistake as maybe others did in the past. And if you do that throughout the PowerPoint, then I'll be able to say that I achieved my job. So enjoy. Don't be shy to ask questions at the end or write them on the side. But again, just thanks for being there. So mental state of an official. My first line I want to share with you is the first one on the left that says, understanding where you stand as a referee will impact how much more you can be efficient. Give you a few pointers. How often we see a U2 official coming in being the newbie and trying to call everything, trying to be all over the place and losing the skills that he has because he's trying to do too much. How often we see a U1 trying to compete with the crew chief where he thinks he's better than the crew chief and he should have been the crew chief and he's doing too much again. And the crew chief himself, when he gets that position, how often do we see someone who's just taking it too easy or being cocky and not being really the leader that he should be? If you understand where you stand as an official, you know the responsibility that come along with those. And if the more you know where you stand, the more you are efficient. You know, like if you're the newbie out of a crew of 3 and you know that you'll be challenged on the sideline, well, it's up to you to either prepare some liners or stay away from the sideline with his free throws or just nod when you're questioned. But it's not time to try to explain everything because then you open a door to trouble. So understand what comes along with your position. And if you do, then I think you can be much more efficient than if you think too much and try to do too much. And it brings you to my right slide that says, keep long-term goals in mind and focus on short-term progress. And it's so true. And the best example I can give you on that, those two liners, is a new official now that is in Ontario, is a friend of mine, is Nathaniel Saunders. Nate, I was there when he did his first college game, and impressively, Nate hasn't changed in the sense that he's still very humble. He's a low profile guy. He asks questions still. He watches video. He talks basketball. He watches basketball. And then all these little things that made him become a FIBA official, because he worked on them in the short term, he always had that long-term goal in mind, you know, and now he's a FIBA official. What will be next? Maybe an Olympic one day. At the end of the day, the people who know Nate knows that he watches what he eats. They know him. He knows what he trains every day. But then he doesn't brag about it. He doesn't make a lot of noise. He just goes to work. And that's exactly what FIBA is looking for, a low-profile official that is efficient, that is neutral, and gets the job done. To tell you a true story of mine regarding that topic is the first ever championship college that I went, it was a D2. It was a two-man system in those old days. And we were 6 of us only on the men's side. And on the Friday afternoon, because we were doing one game on the Friday, one game on a Saturday, one game on Sunday. You do well Friday and Saturday, then you get to go work the goal on Sunday or the bronze, or you don't get to go home. So on Friday afternoon, when we were chilling in the hotel room with the buddies, 2 out of the 6 officials who were there were already university official. Me, the newbie, coming in and being loud and, hey guys, what's your goal? You know, what you want to do with the reffing there? Like, what's your ultimate goal? And one of the answers that I got that day that struck me, that today I still remember, was, well, I already achieved my goal. I'm a university official. And I got stunned. Like, I stood there and they noticed it. And they asked, well, Audette, what's yours? And my goal at that time was to get to the Olympics. Of course, I never made it to the Olympics. But having that long-term goal, I sure did some little things on the way to get to that goal. You know, luckily I got to work the ABA, the PBL, the NBL, lately the CEBL. If you have a long-term goal, then you're going to work for it, and then other doors will open. And it's not because you don't get to that long-term goals that you're failing what you want to do, but you need those long-term goals. Another example that I do every year for the last 10 years at least is in the fall and August. I write myself 10 objectives that I want to achieve in my season. And I do that. I write down objective 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. I take that paper in August. I mail it to someone that I trust in my circle. And I ask to mail it back to me by January 1st. I always forget about it. But when I get it after Christmas, oh, yeah, it's true. And I look, oh, am I doing this? Am I not doing that? At least I give myself the tools to achieve my long-term goal that I have. And honestly, it works. It actually works. Next slide. I want to talk to you about the pregame, or how we are as far as official. And I describe those mental stages as the early stage, the middle stage, and the later stage. You can say rookie, you can say veteran, you can say more experience. And these pointers they don't come from FIBA books or whatever. They're just coming from my experience. So take what's good for you. But when we're early and we're starting in the officiating, what I do remember is that we're calling everything we see. Everything we see, we're calling it. We don't reflect, we just blow the whistle. Then when we talk about pre-game or talk about refereeing, we see 2 teams on the court. We don't see any specific things or any specific players. We just see 2 teams. The actual pre-game, we try to avoid it when we start officiating because we just want to referee. We don't see the benefit of having a strong pre-game. We're not even aware sometimes, you know, that it would help us to have a pre-game. We're so early in our stage in our mind that it's not in our vocabulary. A shot clock is not even something we focus on because most of our games don't have a shot clock at that level. We react to plays. That's what we do. We see something, oh, bang, we have a whistle. So this is the state of mind that I think when you start with the pregame and officiating, you can have. But when years kick in, and instead of calling everything, you try to get it right. You try to focus, or you tend to focus a little bit on key players, not only 2 teams. That famous pregame, you don't avoid it because you're being told it's important, you're feeling it, you're going through it, but you're rushing it. You don't focus on the sideline. you focus on specific coaches with more experience. They get your attention. Oh, that coach is vocal, that coach is loud. They're getting in your head. At the middle stage official, it's something that is popular. The new rule is something that you talk all the time, either in your pregame or either with friends. Hey, that new rule, what do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And then you're looking for the big call. So earlier you were reacting to plays, and the big call in middle stage, like a technical foul or a US foul, you'll be the first one to go home and call your buddy. Hey, I just teed that coach or whatever. To you, at that stage, the big call is something important. With more years in the bank, then you start talking about matchups, not calling everything, not calling the actual thing, but you prevent and pregame by calling matchups. You scout your team. You know, in the pregame, when you get there with your team with experience, you know what to talk about because you actually either looked in the standings, looked like when they played each other, what was the matchup, what was the score. You're coming in with your pregame with some information. Sadly, though, sometimes you tend to skip the pregame because you feel, it's going to be an easy one or whatever. Those are bad habits that sometimes we have, even with experience. We do, however, have a good feel for the sideline. Not only a specific coach, we do have a good feel. We're focusing in the pregame on the play calling, and we're looking for consistency. So in the pregame overall, if you take the last line at the bottom, you will see the state of mind of the reaction and the other one later on that is looking for consistency. And it's one thing to be at 3 different stages when you're refereeing, but the key part is to make sure that the official in the later stage make the official at the early stage comfortable. And the middle stage guy has a big role to play in there because he's often the guy that eventually will be the crew chief, but got to do the little thing to make things smooth between the team with the younger guy and the older guy. So it's 3 different stages that we are for that famous pregame. Next slide, I'm going to show you 2 pictures and I'm going to elaborate on them. The first one is on the left, is in St. John, New Brunswick, an NBL game. I worked that game with Nathaniel Sanders and Jason Steele, 2 FIBA officials. We had a strong pregame in the room before, and we stood in the middle of the court because the players are warming up, and that's the way to go with the NBL. But we voluntarily stood there for 2-3 minutes. I was visualizing on my game and watching the guys taking some hoop and who felt, a good shot from the outside. I can't speak on the behalf of Nathaniel and Jay on what exactly they were thinking that moment. But I like that pick because it displayed a team, a crew that was ready to go to work. And it's exactly what we were. The perception that we displayed because we had a decent pregame was 3 guys that are ready to go. And I think that it gives you an advantage when you start. Big time. To move to the right slide is you have a speed, like in this case, you have Jeff Smith, Jay again, and myself. This game I think was either in PI or, this is in PI, Halifax was playing. The guys are paying attention to what you're saying. So you want to be efficient, on top of looking sharp, the proper words or the proper things you'll say will have an impact on the players. Not that a specific picture, but I remember a pregame I had when Mr. Falloon flew me in Newfoundland for a playoff game. It was St. John versus London, and I was with Matt Boyle, a FIBA official from Halifax, Jason Steele from Montreal, and myself. And when the 2 captains met for that, the place was packed, like 8,000, a fun place to be with. I was very lucky with the assignment. But then I said 3 things in my pregame because I was the crew chief that day. And I just said, I pointed at Matt, I said, Halifax. I pointed at Jason, I said, I pointed at myself, I said, Quebec. I said, we'll be ready. Enjoy the game, gents. And right off the bat, we displayed in our verbal and our body that we're ready with the perception in the pregame. And what it does mentally, I think people undervalue that, is that if you go to your game early or throughout your first half, if you have a tight whistle, then players will give you the benefit of the doubt because what they'll see on the court is 3 professionals that are taking care of business. And you don't need to be in the pro league to do that. You need to arrive ready to work, show the right attitude, show the proper language, thank people for being there, and then you'll get an advantage, an edge on your first few calls if they are borderline calls. And we should take that as official to our advantage. So building a mental state for the game is not only for the official, is also sometimes on our action towards the player, just the way we're standing and the way we're talking. Next slide. As a referee on your own, we also have different stage how we think. The first one here that I like to say here, when we start officiating, man, money attracts us big time. We think the basic stuff. We think we overdo as a referee. We try to call everything. We talk a lot. We use our whistle as a gun. Bang, 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 bang. Regular foul, technical foul, I'm in charge. And we call first degree action. Out of bound, backcourt, simple thing. With more experience, the money is not the main thing. Now it's the volume. We're proud to say, oh, man, I did 10 games this weekend. You know, I did a double. You think you're the best. You don't only think basic stuff. You think you're good. You're discovering duties with time. So you start stopping overdoing. Oh my God, my primary zone. Oh, that's not my, oh, that's something that goes through your head through the middle stage. You talk less and you start listening a little bit more. Your whistle now is a tool, not a gun. And you see second degree action. You know, you see the behavior, you give a technical foul. Now you're able to understand why a technical foul is coming along or why we had a call on the left side and we come back on the right side and we're looking for the same call. With more experience, the volume and the money doesn't mean anything. You care. Your presence tonight show it. You think smart. You understand the duties of everybody. You team talk. Your what's all about is quality. And you're looking for the whole action. So as you can see the progress, we have different objective and different thinking. And the key part is that it's not wrong to think early like this. It's just a process. And if we understand as official that it's a process to think from one way to the other way, then you'll realize that it's not because you go to 6 camps in one summer that you right away should become a later stage or a crew chief official. You need to earn your stripes. And too often we make the mistakes to want too much and not value enough the mileage that we need to do as official. The pick here is about showing poise, class, tact, and terminology. Mr. Thompson, I'm not sure if he's there tonight, but he would be pleased because he's right. You know, the more you use terminology when you express yourself with people, the more you gain value and the more people will realize, oh my God, he knows what he's talking about. And you need to keep in mind that with the tact that you show, there's always someone watching. And this picture in the back there, if you see here, Michael Leslie, head coach of the Halifax, was exactly listening to my answer to the coach from PI, the player in PI. So you got to be cautious to what you say, especially these days with the technology. You got to be smart. So keep it short, use terminology, and have some class. It'll pay off as you go. It's an action that has an impact on the head of the players and everybody. People appreciate that, you know. Referees versus other referees. What are the stages that I found at the different stages for you? Earlier in our career, the officials tend to compare themselves. They tend to be jealous with each other. They tend to envy their partners. They're copying everybody. I don't think it's wrong, but there's still something they do early in their stage. They stress, oh my God, I only got that game. How come he got that game? They stress on the assignments. They stress on the game they're going to get. They stress who their partner is. And they like a partner or they don't like a partner. That's often the description that I find when we look at each other when you start. With more mileage, you're still comparing. Yes, indeed. Now you're less jealous, but you accept. And instead of envying others, you start competing. And that's also could be a good thing. You still copy. I think we all do. And it's nothing wrong. Instead of stressing in your games and your partners, you appreciate. And you start working with the differences of people. That's what mileage do. Then with more wisdom, you learn to trust people. You trust the people that is in place. You are aware that you're working with someone less experienced, but you trust. You start thinking with a team concept. You understand the presence and what everybody brings on a crew. You work with the style. You cherish your partner, and you look to gel. And to me, that's the best line I have in that slide. It's look to gel. If you really care for quality, it's one thing to work, but it's another level to try to look to gel as a team. And it could be a two-man system in a high school where someone just started and he's nervous or whatever. It will be all about how you make that person feel. That will have an impact how that person will be good or not. So the gelling part, I would say, comes along with good crew chief. And if you're in the middle age or if you're later age, take pride into that, because the more we gel, the more we're powerful on the court. Pictures I have here is the last spring national in Ottawa. This was the bronze game on a Sunday morning. It doesn't show, I don't think anybody noticed in the stands, but I had something seriously that tickled me in the first quarter. And Matt Boyle from Halifax, that is a FIBA official, noticed it. And he spoke to me and he tried to get me back, and he did. And sometimes, something that could get you tickled could be a challenging call from a sideline. Sometimes it could be from a partner. Sometimes it could be anything. You just got to stay strong regardless of any adversity that you have. Remember that first slide where the long-term goal and work towards that goal? When you do any type of game, any level, the ultimate goal is a happy ending. And there are things you can do to stay focused in a game. What I do sometimes when I feel that I'm challenged or I don't feel as strong mentally as I should, I try to do self-talk to myself. I try to use the fitness to myself that when I'm center and I want to go to the other center, nobody's going to beat me. When I'm trail and I want to go to the new lead, I will use my quickness, my fitness, my intensity to get back in the game. I'm going to talk to myself, okay, next call, solid. And find a way that is good for you, but it's a typical thing to see a player. Sometimes you get called, and another player, but a ref will get called and challenge in a call and then disappear for a while. Then this is where, as official, we help each other. And if you look to gel, if your team think, and if you care for others, then you'll get that person back in the game like Mr. Boyle did with me. And sometimes it's not always working smoothly, but you got to work for it. And we all go through that. If people with less experience listening tonight, veteran goes through that as anybody that at different level. So just keep in mind that find the cues that work for you to stay focused as sharp as you can. Referees versus coaches. The stages I found, how we feel towards coaches depending where we're at in our career. At the early stage, the official would tend to be scared, would tend to want to answer everybody. I mean, waterman, water boy, assistant coach, timekeeper, coach. He wants to answer everybody. He take way too much space. Too often, the referee will never see the coach. And if they do, they're late to see them. And they ignore them way too often. And that upset often coaches. But with more experience, we're not scared anymore. We're just easily distracted by the sideline. We want to have the final word when we have a conversation with them. We try to control that famous conversation. We see them sometimes we don't. But when we see them, we're late to manage them. And we still ignore the sideline way too much. But with more experience, you always have the coaches in sight. You always talk when it's needed. And you decide when it's the right time. You manage coaches. You see them all the time. You manage them early. And you do not ignore. So experience kicks in here. Mileage kicks in here. Try to see where you stand in your career and what you used to do and what. And it's important that coaches don't get in your head. And there's things you can do for that, from distance that you take from the sidelines, from giving responsibility if you crew chief to your U1 or U2, and stepping in when needed. Just understand that it's a mileage and you cannot buy the years regarding your coaches. And there will always be some coaches that are loud and some coaches that are more respectful. Just do your gig and it will run smooth. The first video I want to show you, I hope it's going to run smooth. It's a video. We have the blue team that is from Gatineau. There's no volume on the video, but I'm going to show you about 1 minute. Hunsik is a white team there. The visiting team is blue. This is first quarter. We haven't even played 8 minutes yet. And I'm going to show you the video a little bit. So it's a two-man system, college D2. We have our first goals call here. So we have the visiting coach that you guys probably know now that did coach the Ottawa Blackjack last summer in CBL. Wants to understand. Doesn't get the answer that he should. So he's being ignored. Play is resumed. We're still in the first quarter here. He doesn't understand. He's confused. And now we have a second goals call. Out of position. And luckily or sadly, we don't hear what's happening. But we do have a technical foul. What I want to share is, it's not that the referee is wrong or the coach is wrong or whatever. What I want to share is the importance of our action that has an impact not only on players or actual game or on coaches, but later on as well. Because what's happening here is, think about it. Sunday afternoon game, 1 o'clock, the visiting team blue came from Gatineau. They probably left at 8 a.m., traveled 3 hours, got there 11 a.m., played 7 minutes into the game, and we make 2 mistakes. We don't let the guy express himself. We don't take the space for mistakes, and we watch someone. Whoever is going to referee the blue team the following week will have to be perfect just to get the minimum respect they should. Why? Because we were aggressive when we administered the technical foul. Why? Because we look for it. So our action, our mental state of action, has got to be more neutral and give space to people. Is there anything better than the NBA official when they give a technical foul? How calm and how in control they are. Here we have an official who uses whistle as a gun. It cannot be constructive. We have to understand we have a role, we have to be in control, and if we do it with the proper mechanic. We had 2 officials at the table gunning a coach that just want to understand. And I'm not saying he's not guilty. All I'm saying is our action has repercussion, and it's going to take several weeks. Anytime that blue team is going to come to Montreal, we'll have that in the back of their mind. We got robbed. And we're here to facilitate the game. So let's reflect on our action, and when we do take them, let's use our action with poise, with tact, like we mentioned earlier. The next slide has volume. Just to put perspective, women camp in Montreal. We have Georgia here on the sideline with myself and Jason Steele. They're running a simulated coaching, handling the coaches. So let's see what we got. Bang. You're going to say, Max, it's easy. It's a camp. You know, there's no pressure. People are laughing. On the court, you have official. On the sideline, you have official. In the stand, you have official. And the teaching part, our actions are done with no aggressivity. And then a message is sent. And I think the camp approach when we referee, where we want to have class, when we want to be professional, we have to apply that in any decision we make on court, camp or no camp. And the cockiness of our behavior got to be something that has disappeared. And if you have people that are laughing on the sideline for something, and then the learning is done, then as observers or campers or people working camps, we did our job. Well, translate that into any type of games. Be professional, be constructive, and go do your business. But don't look for things, don't look for trouble. Next, regarding the post game, the different mental stage that I have for you when we run a post game. Earlier in our career, I invite people to write mistakes. So anytime, have your piece of paper, your little book for the year, write your mistakes you did that day. Absorb it all. And your post game earlier, and you really absorb it all. Don't be the yes, but. Ask question. I mean, you're there for your own benefit. If you work with middle stage or later stage official, you're going to get experience by asking questions. Understand what you're being told. You know, yes, you could not, yeah, and then you have no clue what you're being told. Make sure you understand at the early stage when you share the information. Do the pizza approach. By this, I mean, take everything that people are giving you, go home with it, reflect on it, and just keep what is good for you. Make your own pizza. And finally, don't skip the post game. Earlier in your career, you know, you're going to go from one game to another game. You might do 5, 6, 7 games in one weekend. If you got to do your post game over the phone while you go to your next game with your buddy, you just finished the game, do so. But people who invest themselves in post game benefit, and their growth is 10 times faster than people who don't. At the middle stage, I invite you to write your tricks versus your mistakes. I invite you to listen more and talk less. I invite you to initiate the post game. So if you work with a guy from the old school who doesn't really share stuff, initiate. How did we do, crew chief? Was our second half better than our first half? You know, is there anything we can do better? Initiate the thing. See above the game. You know, if you talk about, okay, we had a technical foul on the blue coach, ask yourself, why did we tee in? Second level conversation. Invest yourself in the post game and do your U1 essential duties. That means make it smooth between the upcomer and the veteran guy. Too often it's a role that is undervalued as a middle stage. With more experience, share your wisdom. Prepare a post game. I have an old iPad, like from I think 2012, still works. I take so much pride showing it and have my liners ready when I have my pregame or my postgame. Use the tool that I want, but arrive to the court knowing who's playing, what are the matchup, anybody injured, what are the latest game time they played each other, anything to expect today, anybody suspended. Prepare your game. Do your own work. Understand, you know, you have the value of understanding a lot of things at the post game. Then share that. Use your wisdom and share that. Give back. It's the time. And dig in. If you go as a crew chief, you finish your game, and crew chief doesn't need to be university. You know, it could be a midget boys city league. If you work with someone, make something constructive out of the game. We owe it to the game. You know, we owe it big time. The pick that is next is really important for me to show for many reasons. And on the left, you see Mr. Turnbull and you see Ferran. That picture was taken last spring at the National in Ottawa. And that was after a game on a Saturday. We just had Ottawa versus Bishop and a winner on the buzzer. And out of the blue, when we had the observer in the post game, Tony and Ferran said this was the best pregame we had in all our life. And you know, I was shocked, and I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you that because how it made me feel 1 year later, I still feel it. And we undervalue so much positive feedbacks amongst each other that we're shooting ourselves in the foot. You know, MP Malo one time said to me, and she's right, she said, people respect the officials, but they don't value them. And it's so true. If we don't value each other, nobody will. And today, 1 year later, never got the chance to thank Tony or Ferran, but it was priceless, the comment that they made. And I wasn't different than usually. I just prepare, I got them involved. But sharing how we feel and make people feel comfortable is priceless, and they sure did. On the right, the picture where you see Patty Byrne, Rob Ferguson, you might see the nice little beautiful head of Pierre Marion. I mean, Lassar was there that day, Varouche. That was a double header where Quebec Observer and myself, we drove down to the Canadian Tire Center, sat down and observed the two games and met with the officials after. And we shared things. And they came down to Quebec, the observers from Ontario, with some observer from Montreal, and then with the official, we watched college game. And the intent there is to share information between Ontario and Quebec to try to develop consistency. When you see guys like that, 67 years old, that are traveling 6 hours, not for their benefit, for the benefit of us, for other officials, that are giving information, that are sharing wisdom, the minimum we should do as official, the minimum we should do at any level is not to skip the post game. Big time. Little sentence that I wrote down on the slide here, and I'm going to try to talk less and just make you realize that I think they're really important. Here we go. Fitness is part of the game, not only for players. Who you hang out with will influence your path. So true. Invest yourself to get better. Opportunity will come along. Don't go to camp to brag or to impress people. Go to camp because you really want to get better. Value everyone before, during, and after the game, especially now with COVID. You know, scorekeepers, volunteer, person who mopped the floor, assistant coach, player, everybody is needed to have a game. Value them. Be the person everybody wants to work with. I just read the book called Catch-22. Rick Vibe, that played for Toronto Maple Leafs. He was describing in his book, you know, even after scoring several seasons of 50 goals, when Wendell Clark got drafted by the Leafs and he arrived in Toronto, took about 2 months. Everybody wanted to be in the line of Wendell Clark because he brought in intensity, he brought in passion, he brought in determination, and he brought in with him his package. Be the Wendell Clark of the basketball when you step on the court. Reflection impact your growth. Never turn your back to anyone on the court. Never give a T with emotion. You just saw the clip we saw. Keep in mind those NBA refs. They're good, man. Matt Callio included. Mental preparation. Eliminate distraction. When you have a spread, that's when you need to referee. And trust me, if you work the NBL or CEBL, you know a spread quickly change. Keep that lid on top of the bed. You are only as good as you want. So yes, you could have a lot of years in the bank, giving a lot of crew chief title. You're only as good as if your team believe in you. Little pictures that shows you things make the difference. I was invited last summer in the CBL and very thankful for it. Never worked with those. Yes, with Tony I work in the spring, but it was my first time that I worked with the other gentleman. We didn't we didn't judge each other. We went in, opened the books, worked the details, and we had a smooth game. Why? Because we took care of the little things. At the bottom there, that was the game in London with Vern when London was playing and the place was packed. That was about 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember at that time, Michael Ray Richardson was a coach, really demanding or whatever. And Vern, the way he welcomed Jay and I in the room, we had a 15-minute pregame. I could have sat there for 2 hours just to work on detail. So when I stepped on the courts, luckily I was, luckily or unluckily, I was in charge that day. When I had to interact with Coach Ray Richardson, I was so comfortable because Vern had taken care of the crew. And the little things, you know, it could have been just to make us feel comfortable with details of what, you know, if the table is sharp or not, whatever. It's taking care of you working with, you know. Last spring working with Riley and Michael Whelan, I rarely work with those two guys. They're from out west, they're FIBA, I'm not. But Michael Whelan step in the room and people who know me, my stuff is already on the bench folded and I'm stretching already because this is my routine. And Whelan said to me, he says, Max, we never worked together, but how can we make a smooth, fun game together? And in the first one line, it's the little things out of the blue. It changed the whole dynamic where it was fun, smooth, and we did have a good Friday night game, Ottawa versus the Lousy. How? Just by making the difference by little things. Don't undervalue them. By little gesture, by the little words, and by making you feel comfortable. The other stuff that I want to talk to you about, the off-season stuff that I think is undervalued as official, especially now we realize it with the COVID where we can't work. It could be cycling, it could be the camps, it could be golf, could be your animal supper. Regardless what it is, you discover and you create true friends. And those true friends help you to do new passion, but they do solidify the strength. And when you get back to that basketball season that you only saw them one time in the summer, whatever, that's your little family. The pressure is off, but use that time off and that season, that time off to create that little family that we need. You know, of course, we enjoy the beer in the off season, but we create true friendship. And I think that's a value that, wow, I mean, me, the day I'm going to retire, I'm going to have friends for life. And not always people my age, younger, older, they're basketball friends. And we should make a pride or a motto that we entertain that friendship. Next slide is about respecting the past and value that past. You know, on the left, you have Varouche Gurlian. People who don't know Varouche on the left, he played for Team Canada, I believe, 8 years in a row. Mike McPhee and myself, or Harry Us and John McDonough that went to the Olympics, FIBA official. Olga, that is the first women coaching the Usports level. In your province, it could be SIP, it could be Tom Christie, Don Klein, Sandy Bebo. I mean, you can name them. Paul Carter, Mike Falloon, it could be Mr. Foxcroft, Tim Lauren, Covert, Ferguson. It's irrelevant who I name because I don't want to skip anybody, but value them because today we're in a very strong structure and Mike Thompson working full time. That whole structure of CBOC, CEBL exists because people devoted their life. Some of them cost them their wedding. Well, value them. And you might know young cats or young crowd tonight that is listening, you might not see them at their peak, but they were in our shoes one day and they create the platform that we were able to use. So please, next time you bump into a veteran, someone who brings wisdom, who either observe or are just there to watch the game, please value them because we are today because of the work that was done in the past. The next little clip I want to show you is a little video, and then I'll say a few things about it.
The Quebec camp is a strong platform for young officials that want to go to the next level. We offer a strong 3 days of basketball, different workshops from coaching, handling coaches, or fitness test, positioning workshop on the floor, studio to work the mechanic in front of mirrors, over 25 observers that devoted their time. For any information regarding the CPA camp, the elite camp, n'hésitez pas à regarder la plateforme du Facebook CPA. Contactez vos présidents régionaux, or even go on Game Plan from Basketball Canada. Vos directeurs régionaux des associations régionales au Québec peuvent vous aider, ou vos propres présidents. So ask around, but we need you and we want to see you.
I don't show this to brag because there's no camp. You know, put it this way. I show this because the approach that we all take when we go to a camp, that you're a camper, you pay money to get better. You're an observer, you're a clinician, you'll prepare yourself. You're a camp director, you're gonna work your butt to make sure everything runs smoothly. The approach that we have when we're involved in a camp, regardless of our position or what we do, is the pro way. And I think the more camp approach we can take when we referee our regular season game, the more we will be respected and the more that we will be appreciated. And if we do it for a camp, those same little details thing that we do that make us look like pro. Ask Matt Gallio. He would use that the video in the morning meeting with his crew. All the approach of camp, switch that to your approach on daily basis. We owe it to the game, and the game will just give it back to us because we'll be more appreciated. And if I wrap up by bringing up my first slide of the evening, where it says have a long-term goal and understand where we stand on official will make us more efficient. You know, as official, for many people, we're an expense. For many people, we are the reason why they lose. And it doesn't take much to blame the official. And if we understand our position where it's not an easy task to be appreciated, whatever, the way we'll act, the way we'll talk, and what we will say, we will be cautious, not only for us, but for the next official the following week or the next generation. Because the stronger that we are together, taking care and be professional, the better we make an impact. That's it for me, folks. I just want to thank you. I think I did all right under 45 minutes. Thank you for listening. If you have any question, or Dan, if you want to answer, be my guest. But this is what I had for you for this evening.
Max, first, before we get into the questions, thank you for that. That's an excellent amount of information to take in for our members, and we're just super appreciative of the time you've taken to come here and talk to us tonight. So thank you very much for that. One of the first things I got asked, and you were 2 slides into your presentation, members are asking, is it possible that they can actually get the physical slides to show their members?
Of course. That's what I do, that to share. The more we share, the better we grow.
Okay, so I'll let you email those to me, and then I'll email them out to the education officers in the province to allow them to have that. Just scrolling back up through presence. Okay. One of the first questions that came in through me early on in the presentation, you were talking about goals, and you were saying about setting goals. And one of the questions that came in was, can you give a description or describe types of goals that you would look for in a season, whether you're an early official, middle official, or a more veteran official?
I think the goals that you write down has to be attainable. You have to be realistic. You know, if you have less experience and you're aiming at going to a juvenile AAA, a D1 championship goal game, work your craft in little things. One thing I'll give you what I wrote down that I remember for myself. One of my goals was work at least once a month with my my high school association, like the lowest board. I wanted to make sure I give back once a month at the lower level to work with the rookie. So that was one objective that I gave myself, on top of trying to, another example I would say would be train 3 times a week, nonstop. Don't skip a week. You know what I mean? Read your look, 2 hours a week, you read your rules. Little things like that. Those pointers like that are easy to attain are the type of objective I give myself. And, you know, like to give yourself an objective is, oh, I want to do the goal game, a champ. That's not an objective. That's, you don't have no control on that. Right objective that you can actually do and make an impact, short-term progress.
Excellent. Another question I had come in is, for an early staged official, how can they develop a style on the floor as far as officiating goes?
Well, they're lucky. They're lucky with the technology now. And I mean, I don't have even cable at my place. My wife is happy, but what she doesn't know is I watch basketball every day anyway online. So with the technology these days, just use the internet, pick someone or a few people that you look up to, and go hang out with them, see them, and ask questions. And if you like a style of that person, then take that. Use the pizza approach. I'm going to take, okay, when he chop his arm, that guy, I like the way he does it. The way he run, I like that approach. The way he uses his voice, I'll take that style. And make your own. You know, there's no perfect style. I mean, Matt Kallio looks really good in the NBA, but Matt Kallio is not Michael Whelan. And Michael Whelan looks fantastic. Or MP Malo looks fantastic. We all are who we are. I think you just want to do it sharp, with strong and crisp mechanic, and be yourself. You don't want to be someone that you're not. So my answer to you would be, it'll come with time. Pick what you like and apply it with consistency. So that if you like to chop that arm solid like this, do it all the time, even on Tuesday afternoon or Saturday night when people are watching. Because if there's something that I remember or that I do take is, there's always someone watching everywhere.
Excellent. Another question I had come in. More so to the fact of, if you have that overzealous partner that that you talked about that goes onto the floor and just kind of wants to make it about them, how can you, or what approach can you use to kind of tone them down to get them back into the game and onto the crew versus being there for themselves?
I think I would go back to our responsibilities. You know, if we have start a game with someone who's all over the place, the first dead ball I would, you know, when we have a timeout, I would say, guys, my primary so far is good. Let's make sure we respect our primary. Let's make sure we focus on what belongs to us, and let's respect each other. We can all referee here. And if that first try doesn't work, then later on in the game, as soon as I can, I would take that person on the side. I say, listen, you're calling it tight or whatever. But the last thing I'd like to do is do it aggressively with that person feel attacked. So I would use it, the approach at first where you go with the rule, we go with the responsibility, you go with the primary zone. And if that doesn't work, then at some point you got to put your pants and say, listen, you might have it tight. Just be cautious. Keep that in the back of your mind. And then usually it comes back, you know.
Very good. I think we got 2 more questions here and then that's it. So the next one that came through was, what are some critical important things to tell an up and coming official who may have a lot of promise but had a very difficult game and has their confidence shaken? What are some good things for mentors to tell or talk to these officials about in the post game?
Well, don't keep it to yourself. I mean, you have your circle of friends, you have people you look up to, talk, reach out, with experience, I make an intent to reach out to some younger official once in a while just to see how they're doing or whatever. If you, in your case, had a tough call or a tough game and you had to eject someone and you feel brutal, well, hit the phone and call someone, and people, we all go through that. We all went through that at some point, and it's part of the game. It's not something that we wish happens often, but it does, and you got to deal with it. But then if you have less experience, use someone who has, and just opening up to someone, then you'll feel better. And luckily, if you have a game that is coming up soon after that incident or that game, then go back and work hard. The toughest moment sometimes is when that happened and you don't work until the next 2 weeks. That's not easy. This is where you talk to people and you share how you feel. And true friend will understand, and the words will come from the experienced people to make you feel better.
Excellent. Last one that I see into the chat, unless I get everything or anything while I'm asking this one, is somebody typed something and then it went away. Just trying to find it here again, Max. One second.
No problem.
When you are watching video of your games or others' games, what in particular are you looking for, and how do you watch those game films?
Well, I watch every single game that I do, every single game. Even if I do a juvenile game and now they're filming on the side, I would go at halftime and say, listen, this is my email. And I'll get it. How I watch it, I focus on myself a lot. And if there's one whistle that I don't like, then I ask myself, why? Why is that a bad whistle? Then I would look at my positioning. I would try to reflect on how I felt at that time in my head. Was I because I was challenged 2 plays before? I tried to make sure that my head is clean, and then, okay, why did the mistake occur? Why didn't I trust my partner? Because on a double whistle, maybe it's not a mistake, but I had a double whistle, it's not needed. So a lot has to do about, if I look sharp with my mechanic, then the next step would be, okay, why did I blow that whistle? Or why didn't blow that whistle? And then I try to find the answers. And once I have the reason why I did it, then after that, it helps me to prevent or making the same mistake again. And if I do watch myself and I don't run hard, I'm not happy. I lost you here, Dan. I don't know if you can hear me.
Sorry, that was just my internet that cut out.
Okay.
Another question that came through for the mental aspect of the game. What's a checklist that you might be able to use during a game in order to kind of help you to keep from overreacting in situations?
I don't have a checklist itself, but I do talk to myself a lot. I say in my pregame to people that I don't want to have anybody on my crew having 4 whistles in a row or 3 whistles in a row. So there are some specific guidelines, like making sure we share the whistle, or there's no specific guideline of check. But when I do have not a good feel in my head because of something happened, then this is where I talk to myself. This is where, like I mentioned earlier, I try to use my fitness to run hard. And often people who know me will say, are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Or if I don't, then I'll open up, during timeout because I got nothing to share. But sometimes there's things how you feel. There's no solution at the moment. You just got to be strong mentally. And the more strong mentally, say, okay, move on. The game is coming. What is done is done. Then it's going away. But I wouldn't have a checklist specifically. It's something I had to reflect to go through, but I don't have that. I just go through the feeling of the moment, and then I act upon how I feel, depending how I feel and why I feel that way.
Okay. Another one that I see here. Any suggested online resources to improve mental mindset on the court during the game or approach?
Well, Ferguson used to share a lot of the TED stuff, and that's good, man. I mean, sometimes it's not related to basketball, but there's a lot of good TED talk that you could be used and you apply it to basketball. The other thing that I think that are undervalued is the reading part. We don't read enough. As official, reading some book on the psychology or the set of mind and being happy or whatever little things. I think a lot of the stuff that we read, you could put into application on the court is an asset that you can do. So resource, I would say read. I would say use the internet, the TED Talk, and just cruise. I mean, lately there's so many Facebook page of people digging and interviewing NBA official, and there's some platform online from Europe, about different specialists and so on. Talk, like open up, if I'm an experienced person and I have a upcomer giving me a call, I say, hey, Max, Mr. Audette, would it be okay that I ask you a couple questions or we can talk basketball? I'll never turn that down. So if you have that desire of getting better, reach out to people that might have more years in the bank, and they will help you. So use anything that has surrounded you, from people to online stuff to books or TED Talk, but don't stay home on your own. That's for sure.
That's great. And I noticed somebody had typed into the chat as well. Podcasts are great,
Yeah.
depending on the ones that you pick up. Like I know the Crown podcast that just came out, the Crown Basketball, they've had some great episodes that have come out too. So excellent with that. Great question that just came through. Any words of wisdom for female officials that are looking to be up and coming officials?
Well, I won't say you're lucky, because you make your luck in life, but there's definitely more opportunity for ladies now officiating, and people will open doors for you if you put in the work, if you invest yourself. If there's wisdom, I think it has nothing to do about sex. Like if you have the courage, to do your responsibility and put someone in his place or replace if that person is disrespectful, just do what you have to do. Wisdom, be yourself. Don't be afraid to take a stand. But on the other hand, don't expect any favors. Don't expect a different, we'll give you. No, earn it. Go to work, earn it. And if you're good, you have a good future, that's for sure.
Excellent. Just checking through to see if there's anything else here. One question came up. You had mentioned about on the court. One of the big things you said is never turn your back to someone on the court. Then they wanted you to elaborate on kind of what you meant by that.
Sometimes you would do a game and you will not be considered of who you are as an official. You won't be part of the crew, or you won't feel part of the crew. And I think it's the worst feeling as official you can get. And if something that I would take pride, I want my U1 or my rookie, we gel together, that we're all part of it, and you belong there. If you got that assignment, you belong there. So turning your back is, you would see that often where a crew chief would talk to his U1 and totally turn his back towards his U2. Like, oh, you're not important. You know what I mean? Or an observer coming in and do a post game and just talk to the U2. I think we're a team on the court. And physically, you don't turn your back. I meant it to be cautious, to open up when you talk, even though you talk to that person, you actually making sure you visualize them. But also emotionally, consider everybody. That young cat there that is brand new has the legs, the will, and will have your spot in 5, 10, 20, 30 years, depending how's your fitness. So be smart and include everybody. When I said earlier to value everybody, that's what I mean by don't turn your back. Value everyone, because nobody else will. It's not the people who's coaching on the sideline will say, are you all right? No. If we don't stand by each other, if we don't support each other, nobody will. And I think that, your presence tonight says a lot. But spread out that word, spread out that support, regardless of your position, observer, veteran, rookie. We all need each other. That's what I meant.
All right. Last one I see coming up in the chat, and I like this question.
You said that last time 5 times already.
I know. You got everyone going now, which is good.
All right, I'll keep going. I'm all right.
It's a lot.
The kids go to bed at 9, so we got 20 minutes.
And I really like this question. So earlier in the presentation, you talked about how officials gel together on the court. What advice would you have for a younger, up-and-coming official who may be just starting to have a strong court presence and make them feel like they're a part of the crew in a more veteran crew?
Yeah. If you're the UB on the court, people know that. So don't be different. But what you could do is what you do it well. I remember when I went up the ladder, I took so much pride in that shot clock. Let me tell you, I said, nobody's going to be better to me and the whole panel about the shot clock than me. And my awareness of it to reset the shot or whatever, as a U2 was at par. And then what it did to me, it was a simple thing. You know, a 6 years old could have done that. But it helped me to gain value from my partners, from the sideline, from that kid knows what he's doing. So my advice would be stay in your primary, referee strong, have the shot clock strong, and don't miss the out of bound. And if you're asked for help, then all right, reach it. But don't try to do too much. That's the typical mistake that we do, you know, the typical. I'll give you a name here. Chris Bukela. I never knew the young official before last summer, and I worked with him last summer at the CEBL. Quiet young man, a little bit like Nate Saunders, you know, low profile, efficient, doesn't say much, apply what he's told, and he's good. He's good. Well, what does he do? Nothing extra. He just keep it simple, stays in prime round, and his play calling is accurate. So what he'll do as he goes, he'll build a reputation, respect will develop, and people have esteem of him will just rise. That's the best advice, and that's the best action you can take when you start.
Awesome. Well, Max, to respect your time, I want to thank you so much on behalf of OABO as well as Peel and Tabo for taking the time to come out tonight and chat with all our members. We really appreciate all the information you've given. As you saw tonight, we're going to have a lot of fun with these chats. So Max, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone for joining. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, folks. Be safe. Be cautious out there.